Hey, what's up you guys? Today I'm going to talk to you about my new favourite authors I have discovered in 2020. All of these are authors that I had never read before and discovered them this year, and they really left an impact on me, and I am a huge fan of their works. In the case of 4 of them, I'm excited to read more of their work next year, especially the very first one I'm going to talk to you about. He's my absolute favourite. I think you already know who it is if you watched my November wrap up. But all these authors are amazing and I'm so glad I discovered them. So I hope you find some good recommendations to this video. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and definitely comment down below any new favourite authors that you have found, or if you've read any of these authors, any books that you think I should read next, because I'm going to talk about the books that I have already read by them. So without any further ado, let's just get started. The first author I have to talk about today is James Baldwin, and he is an African-American bisexual author who is no longer with us. He was writing his books in the 50s and the 60s, I'm pretty sure. Maybe some later on ones as well, but those are the main ones I have read so far. So I have read Another Country, and I have also read Giovanni's Room. Both of them were amazing. Giovanni's Room is one of my top 10 books of this year. We'll get to that later on in the month. But both these books were just so amazing. What I love about James Baldwin is that he really brings both his identities as being African American and then also bisexual into his work, and really connects the two in ways that a lot of authors weren't doing back at the time. Even bisexuality today isn't talked about as much, but back then for a bisexual black man to be writing about this was kind of mind-blowing. Especially what is interesting is Giovanni's Room, he writes about white characters, which you would not expect from a black author, but he wanted to not really always be tied down to a black author writing about black characters. So I thought it was pretty interesting. But his prose is amazing. Like, the way he writes is so lyrical and beautiful without being like over the top or flowery. All of his characters are so compelling. They're all so complex. Like, you really feel all of his characters, like all of their emotions. It's really undescribable how much I loved both his books, especially Giovanni's Room. Another Country deals with a black man's death and how this affects all the white people in his life, and also his sister. And then it deals with his sister in an interracial relationship, and then relationships cheating on each other, and bisexuality involved in that, and just all these different layers. And it's so intersectional and it's so amazing, and I cannot wait to read more of his works. So like I said, I've read Giovanni's Room and I've read Another Country, and I definitely in 2021 just want to read all of his work. He also wrote some, like, what would you call them? Like speeches and stuff, so I really want to read them as well. But yeah, just absolutely love James Baldwin. The second author I want to talk about today is Caroline Logan, and she is a Scottish author whose series The Four Treasures is currently being released. This book just came out in October, and that is book 2, The Cauldron of Life. Book 1 is The Stone of Destiny, and she is writing a Scottish-inspired fantasy series set in a fictional world but based on the culture and myths and legends and stuff of Scotland, and I think it is so fun. It is the definition of an amazing found family novel. So it is YA fantasy, I don't know if I mentioned that, but the found family aspect is so amazing. I love all the characters, I love their relationship with each other, I love just like watching them develop and become great friends, and then also fall in love. There's gay characters, which is amazing representation, it's done so well, and just everything about it is so unique and amazing. The second book really expands on the world so much. The first book is quite a narrow story, I think you would say, but the second book really expands the world. You go to like the fairy courts. It's very much in the vein of kind of Cassandra Clare's type books, which hint, but we will get to them soon. And I just absolutely have fell in love with this series. I cannot wait for book 3, which is coming out in 2021. So like I said, if you are looking for a new YA fantasy, I would definitely recommend jumping into this one. It's also been published by a small Scottish publisher, so you're supporting a small business by buying these books, and I think that is great. They have like maps and stuff in them, and I just love everything about it, to be honest. This is the map inside, and when I published it, when I bought it, sorry, they also sent me, it's not with me right now, like this handwritten note like saying thank you for buying, and this fold-out map, and just everything about it. I just absolutely love it. And I think Caroline Logan, her writing is so great, her characters are so unique, and you just absolutely fall in love with all the characters and all the relationships. The story as well is super interesting, and everything about it. I just absolutely love this series, and I cannot wait to read more of Caroline Logan's books in the future, because this is one of my new favourite series of 2021. Next, I want to talk about Ursula Gwynne. I hope I say that right. I think I say different every single video, but she is basically like the queen of adult sci-fi and fantasy, and I have read The Word for World is Forest and also The Lathe of Heaven by her, and I absolutely love both of them. Again, spoilers for my top 10 books 2020, but both of these are on it. The way that she writes nature in this book is what made me fall in love with her. I just absolutely loved all of her prose, all the way she writes, her descriptions of things, and also just how she intersects feminism and then nature and environmentalism and colonialism and just all of these different things into her books, into her sci-fi books and her fantasy is just like so amazing to me, because it's never like preachy, but it's so impactful, and I just can't wait to read more of her stuff. So I actually own the first 4 books in the Earthsea trilogy in this bind up, which is beautiful. I just love this colour, and I really want to get into this because The Lathe of Heaven and The Word for World is Forest are both sci-fi, so I really want to get into her fantasy because I have heard nothing but great things, and I just, like I said, love her prose, and I love how she connects all these different social issues and topics into her stories in a non-preachy way, but that really hammers home, especially like The Word for World is Forest. If you are into like environmentalism or anything like that, you need to read this book. The culture and the planet and just everything about it is amazing. Like, there's honestly no words for how much I love it. So she has such a huge back catalogue, and I really want to read as much of it as possible, especially starting with Earthsea because it is pretty iconic in the fantasy world, but also just her other sci-fi books and everything about it. The Lathe of Heaven, I haven't really spoken about that. That deals with dreams and things like that, and it was so well done. It was so creative, and just the way that she made you work, like she didn't hand everything to you on a plate. You had to like work to figure out what was going on, and I absolutely loved it. It was so fun, and I really, like all of these authors, just cannot wait to read more of her stuff. The next author I want to talk about is someone who does not need an introduction on booktube, and that is Cassandra Clare. She is the author of the Shadowhunter Chronicles, which is like the Mortal Instruments, the Infernal Devices, the Dark Artifices, and I had never heard of this series until I joined booktube, and all of last year I was never really that interested in it, and then this year I thought, you know, I'll give it a chance. People love it, people talk about it all the time, and I have absolutely fell in love with it. So far I have read all of the Mortal Instruments books, and I have read the Infernal Devices, and I have absolutely fallen in love with this series. The way that Cassandra Clare writes characters is unlike anyone else. Like, her characters are so memorable, you just fall in love with them like the second they're on the page. I just absolutely love every single character and all of her stories, and the way that she just writes plot twists, that is what really made me fall in love with her, is her plot twists. The Mortal Instruments series is just plot twist after plot twist after plot twist, and they never feel ridiculous. Well, I suppose in a way they do feel a little bit ridiculous, but in like an earned way. Like, she earns her plot twists, and it is so good. I have never had so much fun with a series as I have with this. Like, they are definitely one of those ones that are so addicting. Like, as soon as you put down the book, you just want to pick up the next one because there's always just so much going on. And I'm so sad that I finished Mortal Instruments series, but I have the Dark Artifices to go, and I am getting them for Christmas, and I'm very excited about that. But just everything about her books is so fun to me. I absolutely love the characters, I love the storyline, I love the plot twist the most, I love the covers as well. Like, I just love everything about the Shadowhunter books, and I think Cassandra Clare is like the new queen of fantasy. It says on one of like the books, yeah, right here, the new queen of fantasy, and I totally believe that. Her books are just so fun and ridiculously like entertaining. The way that she writes like romantic scenes as well, oh my god. If you know, you know. Like, her books are just perfection in every way. So I have a lot of Cassandra Clare books left to read. There's so many other like Shadowhunter like spin-offs and stuff, and I am so excited to get to all of them. And my last author on the list is Anne Bronte. So she only has 2 books, and that is Agnes Grey and The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and these are not pretty additions in any way. But Anne Bronte was the third sister, so there was Emily Bronte, who wrote Wuthering Heights, Charlotte Bronte, who's most famous for Jane Eyre, and then Anne Bronte. And out of the 3, Anne Bronte is the one who's, she only has 2 books, but like, I absolutely just fell in love with both of these. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall deals with such taboo topics from the time. It's one of like the earliest feminist novels, people would like to say. It deals with like a woman leaving her husband, running away. It talks about alcoholism and abusive marriages and things that were so taboo at the time you just did not speak about them. A woman leaving her husband as well, like that just did not happen, but she wrote about them and I absolutely love it. And then Anne Bronte is much more low-key, not Anne, Agnes Grey, sorry, is a much more low-key book, but it is so beautiful. Like Agnes Grey herself, the main character, she's just so lovable. Like you just want to like grab her and like say everything is going to be okay because she goes through so much in these books. But I wish that Anne Bronte had more time to write more books because she is so talented and she gets overlooked quite a lot because Wuthering Heights is like a staple, like is very well known, and that is Emily Bronte's only book. So maybe, you know, if she wrote more books they might not be as good, which I personally think, if you've seen my video about the Bronte like ranking all their books, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte is amazing. I don't think Charlotte Bronte's other books are that good, and I think if Anne Bronte had more time to write more books then she could probably be like the most famous of them all because both of her books are just amazing, like 5 stars, and Charlotte Bronte's other books are not 5 stars to me. But that's my opinion. Yeah, Anne Bronte, amazing, and I wish that she had more time to write more books, but sadly she's no longer with us. So those were my 5 top new authors that I discovered in 2020. No particular order, although I think James Baldwin does deserve the first place spot. But I just absolutely loved all these books and all these authors. So if you've read anything by these authors, definitely let me know down below in the comments if I like what books I should read next by them. Like I said, I wish Anne Bronte had more books. Sadly she does not, but I'm really excited to get into James Baldwin's back catalogue and just read all of them next year. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.